There are landmines, fences and checkpoints everywhere. People are basically hostages.
I feel like I'm leaving my own brother in a killing field.
International humanitarian law requires that civilians should be removed from likely conflict areas. But as the Arakan army approaches the Rakhine capital, Sittwe, military authorities have made it virtually impossible for residents to leave. Hello and welcome to Doh Athan, a weekly podcast about human rights stories from Myanmar. It's brought to you by Fondation Hirondelle. This episode is produced by a Doh Athan freelance journalist. Names and voices may have been changed to protect contributors. Daw Tint used to love her job as the principal of a primary school in Sittwe township. Now the 38-year-old wakes up on weekdays with a feeling of dread. She drags her feet as she walks to school, with the frequent sound of heavy weapons fire in the distance. The job she once loved has now trapped her in the city. Since the beginning of August, military authorities have barred civil servants from leaving Sittwe.
The reason staff movement is restricted is because some people resigned and fled when the conflict started, and now they can't come back. Even those who want to return to Sittwe can't.
But there aren't many who would want to return. The Arakan Army, or AA, has been moving in on Sittwe for months now. And on the 29th of August, the AA ambushed troops of the so-called State Administration Council, or SAC, near Min Hla village, marking the first battle in Sittwe township. The neighbourhood where Daw Tint lives with her mother is about 30 kilometres away from the closest AA position. But she says some of the local families have already fled, so class attendance is down, even on quiet days.
Teachers in Sittwe can still go to school regularly, but many rural schools are closed. When parents hear gunfire, they won't send their kids to school. A lot of people are fleeing, but for those who haven't left, schools are still open, and some students still come.
The authorities imposed a travel ban on many roads and waterways in Rakhine State after fighting resumed with the AA in November last year. And Sittwe is particularly cut off. The AA now controls Daw across the estuary from Sittwe and also Ponajon, a town situated on the only road out of Sittwe town. Military authorities have been building a 6-foot barbed wire fence along the coastal road since early August. It's not only civil servants who are affected. Daw Tint is a merchant. Her family fled to Yangon in July and she'd like to join them. But it's difficult to travel around or get out of town, even for ordinary people. She says there are checkpoints everywhere now.
Forget going to places like Daw or Punajo. You're inspected at every checkpoint, even just trying to go to the Yechanye area. I think it's because they're worried people will leave the town. I'm separated from my family.
Daw Athan is also separated from his family. He works in the agriculture ministry and was posted to Sittwe earlier this year. His home is in southern Rakhine, but because of conflicts in various areas, he hasn't been able to go back and visit his wife and child at all. In the last 2 months, he hasn't even managed to speak to them due to phone and internet blackouts. In recent months, the only way out of Sittwe was by air, but locals say that airlines always tell them the flights are sold out. They say that only people with high-up connections to the SAC are even being allowed to buy tickets. Daw Athan says flights are certainly not an option for regular government staff.
The airline staff aren't selling tickets to anyone with a civil servant ID. That's how restricted things have become. Even if we want to leave, we can't get a ticket. It's impossible to travel from Sittwe now. There are landmines, fences and checkpoints everywhere. People are basically hostages.
Doh Athan spoke to someone in an airline ticketing department based in Sittwe who confirmed that travel for government staff is very restricted.
For civil servants, you have to go through immigration, and you can't travel unless you have a recommendation letter from your manager. Immigration is controlling this, so you'd have to ask them for more details.
Article 13 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights states that everyone has the right to freedom of movement. But military authorities are restricting their own staff's movements and thereby increasing the danger to them. It's also stressful for the family of civil servants trapped in Sittwe. Gogat and his parents fled to Yangon in June, but his brother, a police officer, can't leave. They're really anxious about him.
It's really worrying. He doesn't want to work there anymore, but he's stuck. I feel like I'm leaving my own brother in a killing field.
And Sittwe is not the only place in Rakhine State which is locked down. The regime is also preventing civil servants from leaving other towns under SAC control, such as An, Manaung, Jiaopyu and Taungok. The AA now controls 11 townships in Rakhine State, and the looming battle for Sittwe has not only led to restrictions on movement for everyone, but has sent the price of goods skyrocketing. Basic commodities have doubled. A vis of garlic costs 7,000 kyat where it used to cost 3,000. And a bag of grade 3 rice, which used to cost about 100,000 kyat, is now 200,000. That's more than many civil servants' monthly salaries. If she could, Daw Tint would take her mother to the safety of Yangon. But she can't go anywhere. Security is tighter than ever these days, and many locals expect fighting to reach the town very soon. Like others, Daw Tint is afraid that things are only going to get worse in the coming weeks.
We're trapped here. We can't go where we want, eat what we want, or do what we want. There's no freedom, no happiness, and it's only going to get worse. Eventually, it's going to make us depressed.
Thanks for listening to this edition of Doh Athan. We'd welcome your feedback on social media, and please follow or subscribe to our pages. This project on human rights reporting is supported by Fondation Hirondelle with the help of our donors. You can listen to our podcast via the Doh Athan Facebook page. They can also be found on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify and Telegram. You can also listen every Saturday night from 9 to 10 p.m. and Sunday morning from 6 to 7 a.m. on Voice of America Radio. Please tune in again next week.